June 8th, 2021. Not sure what that means. I don't know what the significance of this day is. I'm sure it's significant to somebody. Maybe it's significant to Blue Stars. Maybe not. Probably not. I'm just going to sit here and ramble on. Because there's really nothing else to say. We're back. For some reason. Maybe another. Music's still pumping in the background. I guess that means I should keep talking. Probably means I should shut up. You know, it's been one of those days. I got up this morning and I just felt like crap. Just wasn't happy. The state of affairs in the world continues to decline. And I look around at all of it, and I look at what's going on, and I feel really, really helpless. Had a conversation with a good friend of the show today, and that was the thinking. I mean, with the people who've been on the front of this thing, trying to fight the battle for freedom, you start to feel really, really alone because especially you move into summer and everybody obviously wants to go back to their lives doing whatever it is they're doing. But that's been the problem all along. You've got this guy, Fauci Claus. He continues to lie to all of us. You know, Biden's doing what he does. Trump does what he does. None of them care. None of them care about you. I kind of tend to wonder if the founders of this country cared. I suppose they must have, since they were willing to sacrifice their blood, their honor, and their sacred, or something like that. I screwed that up. That's what I do. But that's just indicative of my mood. Lou,
yes.
What am I supposed to do? What's the answer?
Well, you know, this is like when you start to reach out for psychedelic drugs and things of that nature to really balance yourself with all of the nonsense that's out there. That's what I did, at least. I don't know.
So drugs are the answer.
Psychedelic ones.
Always with you. It's drugs.
No. This is serious. It'll help you disassociate and disconnect from the material world.
So I want to dissociate. That's the answer, is to just completely dissociate.
Well, no, you need a balance. What it is you need to realize what it actually all is, being a human. You know, that way it kind of it empowers you again. It refocuses you. You know.
Aren't you poisoning yourself?
It's not a poison. DMT.
Spoken like a guy that just took a bag full of drugs.
I've got to tell you, I think about it, and I used to engage in a certain amount of drug taking when I was younger. And I don't think that would be a good idea right now at all. Like, I see nothing positive coming from, watching the walls melt. I don't need that on top of everything else.
No, that you got the makings of a bad trip is what you have. A very bad trip.
That's how you Satan for like 6 hours.
Right. Yeah, or fucking Beelzebub or some shit. But Lou, how's the view from Saturn?
Go into the woods. You got to go towards like.
Are there woods on Saturn?
Like, you got to go towards Peru, and you got to, take some ayahuasca or something.
Yeah, get shot by a cartel or Sicario, and maybe you have to smuggle shit back to the United States in your butt. I could see that. That's a Lou trouble. That's a Lou trouble, I think. Lou would have trouble there.
Just ran away on us right there.
Yeah, he was like, "I'm out." That's hilarious. However, I think what you're going through. What I think you're going through is that collective, and lack of a better fucking term, it's like psychic turbulence, the best way to describe it. Like, spiritually, mentally, physically. Like, I woke up this morning feeling like shit too. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, and I don't know why. I feel like dog mess. Is it the state of affairs? Is it the fact that fucking America is literally a fucking dumpster fire? I don't rightly know. I can't put my finger on it. There's not just one issue.
Okay. You guys are fucking harshing my motherfucking mellow first. Welcome back again to the American Council for Truth and Journalism. We're here tonight to actually ingest some white fucking pills, because joining us pretty soon here on the council is someone who actually fought the man, brought the man to his knees, then the man failed to admit that he was defeated, and then he, paid out, and now,
Sent to the taxpayer, I think.
Yeah, well, and sent the bill to the taxpayer and stuff like that. So
Let's start off.
Let's start. Yeah, let's stop all this pessimism. Let's bring our man, the myth, the legend, hourly struggle, friends for Fullerton's future. If I'm saying that correctly, Joshua, welcome back, sir.
The joy of mute.
Are you feeling?
Yeah, friends for Fullerton's future. That's correct.
Yeah.
So. Okay, good. I thought I would have fucked it up. I'm getting better at this.
You're good.
Okay, so it's been a while since you've been on, and it's been a while because last time you were on, you were giving us the lowdown on your fight against the City of Fullerton, right? With their fuckery and whatnot.
It was the City of Fullerton, specifically their law firm Jones and Mayer, who had screwed the pooch royally by not knowing how to follow the law and keep confidential records confidential, and then blamed us because we hacked their website by clicking Dropbox links on a Dropbox account they told us about. And that case started, they sent us a cease and desist letter for some things that we had published, which were specifically, not specifically, but mostly about police misconduct. And they sent us a cease and desist in June of 2019, which we ignored. And then they sent us they sent my attorney one in July of 2016, which we actually published to the website, called them to Kick Rock. And then they sued us in October. It was technically October 25th, 2019. And so this case has just been dragging on since then. It finally ended. Well, technically it's ending right now. So we had to delete files that we care about. And then I think the timeline, the last thing that's going to happen besides them having to give us checks is they actually have to publish what they did on the City of Fullerton's website. And that happens in about a week and a half. And then that has to stay on their website for 6 months because, they screwed up. So
it's kind of like the equivalent of having to write their, what they did on the chalkboard over and over again.
Yes.
You can see it. I can see the meme coming, where they're like Bart Simpson over there.
I will not sue people for clicking Dropbox links.
Yeah.
And truly though, if you got to watch the video again, it's hourly struggle on YouTube, the hourly struggle on YouTube, where you basically broke down the fact that it was lawfare profiteering. It feels like from this law firm that was representing the city that did something absolutely so fucking stupid, and ultimately are going to have to pay out checks. Are you going to buy some game stonks with that, or are we going to put your life back together after this lawfare?
We're still going to put our life back together a little bit, take care of a couple of things we need to take care of. It's lawfare is a good term for it because the city attorney in our city, it's the same attorney that renders opinions and litigates cases. So I can think of probably 4 cases now that they have screwed up in how they read a contract, how they read the law, whatever, and then they ran into a lawsuit. And all of the billable hours they just profit from. They have no incentive to do the right thing or to make correct decisions because as things drag out in the courts, they get more and more money. The word I had was that the city attorney had racked up about $400,000 in legal fees suing us. And one of the reasons we agreed to settle, it was never really about money for us either because they sued us. That's one thing that people need to understand. We didn't sue the city. They came after us. And we were willing to settle. We wanted it to go away. We didn't want the taxpayers to eat any amount of money, but the city didn't want to admit any liability at all. They wanted to just blame us hackers, thieves, what have you. They actually had a whole thing on their website that we actually found a couple months back that it was a 10-page summary of the case. And it said that we basically tricked city employees and it was premeditated. And it was all this nefarious action that we'd done because they put files on Dropbox. It was really hard to believe that it kept going and kept going. Now, amusingly, so we're still technically in the process of settling because settling isn't just hey, you settle and you're done. You have to go through a whole set of process. We have to do this. They have to do that. This part of the case has to be dropped. We couldn't drop our appellate hearing until they dropped their trial hearing because then we could just end up screwing ourselves. It's a whole process. And doing all of these steps, you just realize how sort of crazy it was. And it's kind of annoying timing, but this last week, the U.S. Supreme Court actually ruled in a case. It's a kind of a dirty cop case, so you kind of feel bad rooting for the cop. But a cop was using his access to his computer access in his car and looking people up for pay. And the city or the department sued him under the same thing I was being sued under, the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. I think it's from 1986. And the Supreme Court just ruled that no, he didn't hack your system. He had access to it. He may have been doing things he shouldn't have been doing that were unethical or illegal for other reasons, but it's not hacking. He had access to that. And so, but the way the ruling is, it actually obliterates the City of Fullerton's case. Yeah, it obliterates the City of Fullerton's case against us on all of the CFAA stuff. But we still were worried about it because, okay, so we got sued October 24th. They tried to sue us. The judge couldn't hear us. They actually win it on the 25th. The judge granted a temporary restraining order telling us we couldn't publish things, we couldn't delete things, all this stuff, because the judge didn't know how to check his own email. Like, I'm not being facetious. He said that in court. He said he couldn't check his email. He didn't know how to use online banking. And then, so we appealed it to the Court of Appeal in California. They stayed what he had done. Then it just kind of winds its way through and it gets back to the court. And then he issued an injunction against us. And again, because he didn't understand technology, he was being bamboozled with bullshit from the city attorney. And then the appellate court stayed it again. And it was just this, we had to sit back and go, wow, all it takes is for one boomer who doesn't understand technology to
ruin somebody's life.
To ruin your life. Because the city paid, okay, so the city had to pay me $60,000, had to pay my compatriot $60,000, and had to pay my attorney like $230,000. And we would have been on the hook for that if the judge was just wrong. And so that's also one of the things I've seen in a lot of the comments on, because this story ricocheted sort of around the tech sector when it was finally settled. And a lot of people were like, oh, the attorney got this. I'm like, no. This isn't like Ticketmaster where they screw everybody and you get a coupon and the attorney gets $1 million. Like, we agreed to pay our attorney. Like, we were paying her rate, win, lose, or draw. So it's like, that's just $230,000 I don't have to pay her now, which is awesome. I'm stoked about that. But it's just been insane that you can just look at this. Like, the city loses nothing. They just bilk the taxpayers more. The city attorney loses nothing. They, again, bilk the taxpayers. The judges, they don't care. They get paid to be there all the time. So they're like, oh, I think we should argue this and hash this out. I'm like, cool story, bro. You're paid. This is your job. Like, I got to show up and be screwed with and pay to be here. But you just want to hear the argument. It's like debate club for some of these judges.
Yeah, I'm not feeling very white pilled after all of this.
Right. Thanks, Dad. This is bureaucracy. This is bureaucracy at its finest. Let's waste a shitload of money. Let's ruin regular people's lives on some bullshit. I hope that fucking prosecuting attorney has somebody get his phone that he left open and they put the picture of their balls or a dick on his Facebook page. Is that hacking? Is it hacking? Oh, apparently that's hacking because you don't understand the difference.
In my defense, come on, man. It was like, you guys were killing me here, bro. It lays bare nakedly. The state is fucked up. And it
but
should
be
right. At least Josh won.
Ultimately won, right? I mean, ultimately, right? I mean, it's not all that great. I mean, it is frustrating, ugly. It pisses me off that somebody who seemed to be born after 1945 somehow sits on a fucking court of appeals or sits on some sort of high court, can't look at his messages, is absolutely technologically inept. And that ineptitude allowed the wool to be pulled over their eyes, and subsequently 2 to 3 years of just sheer hell. This should lay bare. Like, we're learning things.
So the attorney actually pulled the wool over the eyes of other attorneys in the entire law firm, and the city council, and the city manager, and I just happened to have my attorney. We'd had her on retainer for just public records request stuff, and she's just the best attorney in California on this. And when we got the first cease and desist, she was like, well, I sent it to her, and she's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, tell them to kick rocks. She's like, okay. And then they sued us, and she said, well, most people at this point would freak out because it's going to be an expensive case to go through. What do you want to do? And I said, tell them to kick rocks. And she's like, oh, okay. I don't normally recommend that because there is a chance you could lose. I'm like, yeah, but we're not going to lose. So let's just do this. We got lucky, to be honest, in that our city council changed. 2 of our members of city council changed this last election, and we lost 2 incompetents and gained 2 people who actually understand technology. So when the city council voted on our settlement, 3 council members voted to settle and 2 voted against us. And it was nothing. They'll spin their yarns, but it was nothing but personal animus, because the one guy, Jesus Silva, actually said he had a fiduciary duty to look out for the taxpayers. This guy is your boilerplate, spend as much money as you can, throw it all at the union's Democrat, like spender as spendy can be. And he's like, I have a fiduciary duty. I don't even think he knew what that phrase meant before the paper asked him about our case. And then another guy, same thing. He was just full of it. He was like, oh, well, I didn't want to settle because I didn't like the terms. I'm like, yeah, what he wanted was us to go, yes, we're evil hackers and we did all these nefarious things and the poor city did nothing wrong, and that was never going to happen. So, yeah. But again, the white pill is that we won. I mean, we stuck it out. We didn't cave to them. We weren't going to settle if they didn't admit what they did. We weren't going to settle and take the blame for their incompetency. The only thing that we gave them is, like, we gave them copies of whatever files we had left, and we agreed to delete what we hadn't published because we don't care. Like, we were publishing this stuff back in June of 2019. Like, it's not like we were sitting on some bombshell waiting to drop it. It's like, yeah, all the cool stuff's already published. So here, I guess I'll delete this nonsense. So.
I mean, in the end, though, I mean, the moral of the story to me is that, again, the taxpayers get hit with the money. There's really no consequence for the people who perpetrated the crime, or will there be?
We might have some consequences. The city manager's been fired since the settlement agreement, and we'll see what happens to the city attorney. We're hoping the city attorney will go away as well. So we'll know more in the next council meeting or 2, because government runs at the pace of glacial speed. So whether they get gotten to, we're optimistic. But again, city manager's already gone, so that was cool. It was this and a few other things, because they've just been throwing good money after bad. You know, I think they tried to pay, I want to say it was like $300,000 to hire somebody to basically do a bunch of surveys to ask people how they use the parks. It's like, you guys have all been off work for a year, getting telecommuting. Like, you can't go on Facebook and put a survey monkey survey up to ask people things. Go away. So this case, though, helped propel the city manager to get fired. So, hey, we've gotten our blog, the Funds for Fullerton's Future, has actually gotten quite a few bureaucrats either fired, incarcerated, a couple other things. Good times.
I like hearing that. Anytime a bureaucrat winds up falling into prison is a good thing for me.
Yeah.
So it's one of the biggest things that I've learned over the last several years of doing local politics and what have you is that it's where you can have the most impact. So I'll give you an example. A lot of people in conservative Inc. like to just troll everything. They think they're solving the world's problems by trolling AOC or whoever. And I like trolling as much as the next guy. I fought in the meme wars like everyone else. But not much happens on the national stage because, if you live in Nashville, there's not much you can do about a congressional seat in New York, sort of thing. Whereas locally, there's a lot you can do just by digging in and paying attention. When the blog I write for, Friends for Fullerton's Future, had gone dormant for about 4 years between 2012 and 2016. And then just through sort of happenstance, they asked me to revive it. And on election night 2016, our then city manager got drunk and drove his car into a tree. And the city council tried to bury it. The police department actually didn't send it to one city council member because he didn't want to get it out, and it somehow got out otherwise. And we published it, and that cost him his job. And then other things we published over the years, this person left, and it's not even that they get arrested or anything else. Like, our HR director left during the midst of this of our lawsuit. We just managed to drive out another community development director. All these bureaucrats, like, you just make their life miserable and they run away, and then they just can't bring new people in. Like, they can't bring your typical bureaucrat in, and they have to try to find people who are competent, because we'll just ruin them. We'll dig into public records requests. We'll go to meetings. We'll just, like, at the last meeting, the city council was trying to get rid of short-term rentals like Airbnbs. there was this huge fight over it. So the union hack, the maids and all the unions were there. And then the short-term rental owners were there. And so I got on Zoom and just read Frederick Bastai's The Candle Makers petition about keeping the sun out of houses because it hurts candle makers. And it's an anti-union screed. And I was just like, I just read that. And then people like, the people in the audience that were the Airbnb people like cheered. They were like clapping afterwards. And you could visually see one of the council members losing his mind, on the screen because he just can't handle, that I'm doing this. And that type of activism, that will drive people out. It will drive some bad actors out from even running. I mean, I know people who were going to run for council here in Fullerton, and then we're like, yeah, no. And they moved to another city to run there because we caused so much grief for them. So that's the white pill, is that you actually can make change, just not where everyone wants to make change, 1600 Pennsylvania.
No, you get in trouble when you go to try and make change over there.
I would just kind of document things there.
For a hat.
You get in trouble for a hat, pretty much.
Right.
There.
That's a relic, by the way. That's a relic. One day you're going to be able to sell that on eBay for a lot of money.
No, that goes to the boys.
Josh, there's something that I can honestly take away from your awful bureaucratic tale, is that the good guys won. The good guys spat in the face of evil bureaucrats, and now all look like Peaky Blinders, I hope. I hope that all of you walked out of there to the Dark Horse song for the
in slow motion with fire and explosion and open cauldrons and
we'd have to wait till it was all done. Like the city council has to be told that we've complied with everything. Then they have 10 days to put what they did on their website. And once that's done, that's the last thing. So we have to have some sort of hurrah at city council. My attorney was not thrilled with some of the stuff I wanted to do. Like when we had to turn over files, I wanted to have an armored truck because it's we hacked them. It was so nefarious. Right. Like an armored truck and have a USB drive in a attaché case, like handcuffed to my wrist. Like, this USB drive is worth $2 million.
like short circuit too. That tells
we're serious.
Short circuit too. The guy comes in with his diamonds. You got to ratchet to your hand with a combo, and everybody's like waiting to see something ridiculous. It's a fucking USB drive that you bought at Best Buy. I like that.
Yeah.
That also
it didn't go over well. It didn't go over well.
Down over a cold, so
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I'll drink to that.
The lawyer said no to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been fun though. That would have been fun. I mean, come on, you gotta take a victory lap at some point when there is a small victory, even if from a taxpayer perspective it's Pyrrhic. I think you're right. I mean, it comes with exposing a lot of these people, the light of day here. I mean, me and Sean live in a state that is openly and outwardly corrupt in a lot of instances, particularly outside of our big cities, but particularly in our big cities. And so, yeah, there's something to be said about, if it wasn't for the fact that our press, right, our independent journalists are basically just bootlicking leftists, then yeah, it would make more sense. And like, it's not like our alternative press to the left-wing press aren't bootlicking, conservatives and MAGA types, but it's
going on.
I mean, is it so hard to tell the truth? Just tell the truth.
It is.
Just tell the truth. That's like
hard.
What I just recently purchased a vehicle, and the guy that sold it to me was a veteran, and he said, my father, before I even decided to serve, taught me how to sell cars to veterans. I said, what do you mean? He's like, don't bullshit him. Don't lie to him.
That was the first lie he told the whole time. He lied to you the whole time, Fury. What were you thinking?
The wife and I.
That was part of the sale, bro.
Well, the wife and I were laughing. The wife and I were laughing. I said, that's exactly what you would have said. He goes, shit, yeah. And he kind of ducked his head a little bit. I said, I came here. You didn't advertise me to come into you. But the point is it's not that hard if you're $1 million corporation to just fucking do the news. And verify your shit.
No,
and verify your shit. How then? Far be it from me. Yeah, far be it from me. But
it's all incentives.
How much money does anybody in this room right now been offered to tell the truth and actually verify their sources when they report out on something?
I know I've been
or
offered
cover
a fair amount to lie lately, but I won't get into that.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
in a roundabout way, the city of Fullerton offered me $60,000 to tell truths they didn't want told.
I'm sure if they could have it the other way, they would.
Direct.
Right, right.
So,
but it's just
even
tell the truth.
Even on the local level, it's all incentive based. So here's the problem on your local newspaper, where they make most the really, really small newspapers, like we have one here in Fullerton, and they make their money on not just advertising, but on required things that have to be published. So like if you want to change your business name, that has to be published. There's certain things like name changes, certain things you have to do, and those you pay to put them in a paper. So people put them in the smallest papers possible because it's cheaper. And then as you go up the food chain, like the Orange County Register or the LA Times, it's the same thing, only expanded. And it all just, not only is the media like 98% communist, but beyond that, it's all just incentive driven. Like what are we covering? Oh, we're all covering COVID because that's trending. Oh, but we're not going to cover Fauci because that hurts our narrative. So it's corrupt, but it's also very incentive driven to where
you had the media covering it because they were getting paid. You had the hospitals killing people with ventilators because they were getting paid. So, it all works out for everybody. And now you can shove a shot in everybody's arm and get paid off of that too. It's pretty sweet.
Well, and then you can incentivize it. You can incentivize it now too. Hey, you win $25 million if you got vaccinated.
Lottery, make it pay, baby, make it rain, brother.
I'm pretty sure that $25 million could go to the homeless community, or I don't know. There's a lot of things like fixing potholes in my area.
With the taxpayers.
Money at this point, you might as well just take all the money out in the street and burn it anyways.
Throw it up.
Speaking of incentives, y'all heard about what they're doing to farmers, right? They're incentivizing them. They're paying them 1.5 their crops to destroy their crops. But if they don't want to do that, then they're not giving them any of their normal subsidies.
It's almost like we've done this before.
Yeah.
It's almost like we've done this before.
Always been a scam. Farming has always been a hustle. It's been highly subsidized for years and years and years. My grandfather said he wished he'd gotten into being a farmer. And coming from a very financially wise older man with somewhat of a hook nose, that means a lot.
I'm sorry. My growing up, we didn't have a whole lot of money, man. We're Midwestern farmers that I guess maybe we were doing it wrong. Maybe we were doing it wrong, Fury. Maybe we were doing it wrong. I don't know, but we fucking
there's
a reason.
There's a reason why Bill Gates and Ted Turner and all those guys own some of the largest tracts of farmland in the country, because it is absolutely heavily subsidized, and it is a scam and how they do. I mean, that's why the caucuses start in Iowa, because King Corn throws a lot of money around to sway the election. I mean, that state is almost irrelevant as far as states go, but they have a disproportionate impact because of how farming is dealt with. And that's just how our whole system is. I mean, I was out with my wife a couple of days ago, and I was at a store, and I'm looking at all the people wearing, because I'm in California, so everyone's still masked because thinking doesn't work here, lack of oxygen to the brain. And I'm looking at these people, and I'm like, this is why I hate democracy, because all of these people, like Fauci's emails had already come out. Like the governor Mussolini had already said that his June 15th date didn't really matter because reasons. Like, we need to follow CDC guidelines until it's inconvenient. But the problem is, if he gets rid of the state of emergency, then he loses all the power that's sort of been given to him by the courts and by the legislature themselves. And one of those powers that he was given was the ability to change our election laws. That's why everyone was able to have everything was mailed to them. Everybody was just given, there were drop-off locations everywhere. They made it the easiest election in the history of stealing elections. Well, he's up for recall. He's going to be in a recall election at the end of this year. So if he gives up that emergency power, then the legislature then has to pass all these through the legislative session. And if it doesn't get passed through, it goes back to how our elections were, a year or so ago. And that could screw him. So it's all incentive based. Is anyone in the news talking about this? Is anyone connecting these dots? No, because they absolutely want that. I mean, I think it was Time Magazine put in a thing about how they fortified the U.S. election, basically by lying to everybody and controlling the narrative on everything. Well, that's what happens.
Don't you think that's funny though? How now your case gets settled, the Fauci emails come out, the lab leak hypothesis comes out, Alameda County, there in your lovely state, basically says, yeah, 25% of them deaths that were COVID weren't really COVID. Ventilators we know were killing people. Ivermectin is actually a thing, but we had to not say it was a thing because we needed emergency use authorization for the 2 jabs. I mean, California did it right. Georgia didn't do it right, and Texas did it wrong. And I mean, isn't it funny how everyone now comes out and says, you know what? Our bad. I said that a year ago.
The control of information, even the truth coming out, is still controlled opposition, because they'll tell you something and then nobody reads past the headline. I still have people in my town who think that we hacked the city. We're like, no, the city's even acknowledged it. Like, it's been all over the place. Like, what, really? I had a guy, it's funny, I have him blocked personally because he just annoys the snot out of me. I don't really use Facebook too much anymore. But on the Fullerton's Futures page, he commented, and he said, why didn't you guys just give the files back and do what the city wanted? And I'm like, dude, because when they started all this, they wanted us to unpublish things. They wanted to absolutely violate the First Amendment. But that's not what the local newspaper told it. That's not what the narrative was. And so when the truth came out 18 months later, it didn't matter. They already had this fortified mentality. It's this issue like you see every day with the masks in California. You're like, we know this is all fake. Like, I can point to Fauci's emails and show you how it's bullshit. I can show you how the governor is full of it. I can show you all these problems. I can explain the science to you. I can tell you that the reason the death numbers change is just because they change the PCR cycles on how they test people. And everyone's like, I don't care. That doesn't make me feel better. And that's the problem.
It's sunk cost fallacy.
Once
right?
you hit people with that
vested
first
interest
hit,
in it.
Yeah.
It's scary. Like you said, the fortified, the fortified position. It's scary because they willingly and knowingly accept propaganda as their news, and they know it's propaganda, but they don't care because their worldview is very fragile. And if they accept the fact that all these fucking people on these talk boxes are lying to them and that the government doesn't have your best interest in mind, well, then they may have to go back to church or something. I don't know. Maybe that's what they're avoiding.
This is the real beauty, going back to the shot, is that there's a lot of research coming out that suggests very strongly that we're going to be looking at basically kind of a fancy version of mad cow disease. And all these people that have gotten it as this spike protein wreaks havoc on their body. And so what's going to happen is they're all going to completely forget about everything. They're going to slowly go insane, and they're still going to yell at us and tell us we're crazy.
Mm-hmm. Unreal.
Yeah. Well,
that spike protein is not as contagious as I fear.
I like that they always got like the ace under their sleeve to be like, by the way.
when you look at all the things and like I said, like, I mean, and this is, the case in Fullerton is just this microcosm of what we're basically on around Robert Way discussing is we know it was all bullshit. Some of us have been saying it forever, but it's just coming to that point now where like it's getting ridiculous, and so the powers that be aren't even hiding it anymore. They don't care. It's like I'm gonna break a rule here. It's like that scene in It's a Movie. I'm sorry, The Fugitive.
You're cool.
Okay.
Okay.
So Harrison Ford's chased through this tunnel. Tommy Lee Jones is behind him. Comes to the opening. He can jump or he can surrender, and he just yells at him, "I didn't kill my wife." And Tommy Lee Jones says, "I don't care," because they don't care, guys. They don't.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter anymore. The transitory inflation, that's not a thing. The mega drought that will probably happen in California, which applies what? Correct me if I'm wrong, Joshua. A lot of our fucking produce, that's going to be a thing.
Oh yeah,
people to go back to work.
It's not.
That's going to be a thing.
California is. So California is actually sort of like America's breadbasket. We supply obviously a lot of fruits and nuts, thanks to Hollywood, and the other part of the
Great
state.
joke, Dad.
What a dad joke.
Sorry.
It's so funny though.
It's true. It's fucking true.
So I got 3 kids. I can't help myself.
That's all right.
So
had to point it
we
out.
have
so.
a huge dairy production, huge cattle, huge beef production in the state. I mean, you drive up towards through the Central Valley up to San Francisco area. You drive up the 99. It's all you smell is manure because the dairy produce production. Like we have a lot of like it's some things you wouldn't even think about. Just some of the produce that we do here. And if a major drought happens, it could absolutely hurt a lot of that. Now, the droughts are bigger to Southern California than Northern California because the way the estuaries are and the rivers and all of that. But yeah, they dump billions of gallons of water into the San Francisco Bay every year instead of using it because of a mudfish, a 2-inch mudfish. But our state
they're still about
is
that fucking
ridiculous in
fish.
that we
They're
don't.
still about that fucking fish in the Central Valley.
it's never-
They're starving the
it's never
Central
gonna
fucking
stop.
Valley for that fucking fish still. It's
Well,
been a decade, man.
Yeah, but the
Jesus.
Weather Channel was getting everybody worked up over the rich people's houseboats in that lake or reservoir you guys use drying up, and they're like, "Oh God, their houseboats got to go somewhere else." Like, I don't give a shit about the rich's houseboats.
Well,
Or
I mean, there is something to be said about the water problems. I mean, if you go back, I mean, it's Chinatown, Jake. You got the water problems in California have been around since people started settling California. That's why people didn't live in certain areas. There was no water. So when I was a kid, we used to go up north all the time, and there's a lake called Mono Lake that is nothing. You look back at pictures from the 50s and 60s, and it was a lake that people went boating on and everything else. And now it's well, I think they've actually replenished a lot of it, but it was inches deep. Like there were these giant salt pillars that were 20 feet high that used to be way below the water because Los Angeles just drained that lake so people could water their lawns and other such nonsense. But we have all these problems going back to the point of people not caring. They don't. If you look at our vice president, she's probably one of the most hated people as far as what she's actually done, what her actual positions are. She got to where she is by banging her direct boss, which is what every feminist says that they're against. She's
Willie D.
like the worst on criminal justice reform. She's worse on terrible on all these issues.
Thank you.
And nobody cares because she's on the right side of the aisle. I have in my town, there was a shooting about a year ago, and there are some debatable points on either side. But the big issue, so like all the Democrats are we want justice for this guy who was shot. And the case notwithstanding, the only reason people have seen video about what happened is because a California law was passed that required release of this police videos. I don't know how my assembly person voted on that at the moment, but there's another companion bill that required police records to be put into the public if a cop created great bodily injury, created a sexual assault, or I think it's a dishonesty, like they proved that they lied on their job, that these records became public records. My assemblywoman voted against that. She voted to protect the cops from their incompetence, and she's out there going, "I care so much about what happened." I'm like, I can literally point to how you don't. And you tell these people, you're like, she's lying, she's playing you. She doesn't believe in any of this stuff. Like when push comes to shove, she's gonna screw you every chance. And they're like, "Well, she showed up and said pretty words at an event, so yay." And it just doesn't get through to people. People just don't care. They're so pot committed to their binary choice, whatever the news whatever Facebook tells them. I mean, Facebook. I just saw when I was logging into this, I saw a thing where it was it's a stupid meme. I don't know if it was Babylon B or somebody else, but it was like Fauci now says you should wear face masks over your eyes so you don't see his emails. And Facebook fact Facebook fact checked that with a COVID meme Facebook fact check. And I'm just like,
to be fair, that would have gotten me. To be fair, that would have gotten me.
To be fair,
I'd have been like, how am I supposed to get the mask over my eyes? Sorry.
I think
God damn, you're so high, Lou. Lou takes from that. How am I gonna get masks over my eyes? Fucking Lou.
Because Nickelodeon has brought out some fantastic entertainment
Propaganda
that can find a way to load it up. I think that everyone should see it. I think it's important.
Stand by.
We're standing by. I'm going to sit here and try to BS about it as much.
It's important culturally, socially. Yeah. It's like chicken noodle soup for the teenage soul that has a made up disorder because they watch a TikTok video.
I showed it to my youngest, and he said, "Is this real?"
Well, nothing that good has been on Nickelodeon since Rocko's Modern Life. I'll fight you.
It's getting better, and that's that's in the copy. I was that's what we said before. We're going to get the UBI. We're going to have a 400 square foot apartment for a family of 4.
Yeah, they're trying. They're trying, Josh. They're trying.
Live in the pods and eat the bugs.
Yeah, and we'll watch Nickelodeon all day long. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Good luck, everybody. Ugh, strap in.
It's Pride, everybody! Every color on the Pride flag is a symbol in the sky. Pride! And I'm proud to be me every time that I see that Pride flag waving high. Red means life because living is a gift. Orange means healing, and we have to persist in working to heal the world and healing ourselves. Yellow means sunlight, cause you gotta shine bright. Green means nature, and we gotta fight to keep our earth a thriving home for life. Doesn't it just fill you with pride, showing who you are on the inside? Wave that pride flag up high, be true to you. Happy Pride, everyone! Yeah! Blue means harmony, working together. Purple means spirit, believing you have the power and strength within yourself to do whatever you dream. Baby blue, pink, and white represent transgender people because every letter in LGBTQ plus is equal. And black and brown represent the queer and trans people of color. Doesn't it just fill you with pride, showing who you are on the inside? Wave that pride flag up high, be true to you. Show your pride, wave those flags, everybody. Here we go. Red light.